What's up, everybody? It's your girl T, and I just got back from seeing Star Trek Beyond. This is the third installment in the newest iteration of the Star Trek movie franchise, and this movie was not directed by J.J. Abrams. Of course, the previous two were, but this one was directed by Justin Lin, who we first came to know through his rise to fame directing the Fast and Furious franchise movies. He started with Tokyo Drift and went all the way up through Fast and Furious 6. If you know the Fast and Furious movies, then you kind of get what Justin Lin is all about, you know? I feel like he's done a really great thing with that franchise. He's been very kind of honest about what it is and very unapologetic for what it is. So I was very curious to see if that sort of sensibility would translate well to the Star Trek franchise. This movie's been getting a ton of good buzz, although not a ton of promotion in my opinion, and I have to say, I thought it was sort of meh. I think there was a lot of action and set pieces and, you know, all that kind of stuff, fight sequences, but I just really didn't feel like the movie did a good enough job of making me care about anything that happened in it or any of the characters in it. Now, this is Star Trek. These are characters that we've known for decades and that we've at least known, even if you haven't seen the old show or the old movies, we've at least known these characters for two previous movies. And yet and still, even with that sort of shorthand and that pre-existing relationship with the characters, I didn't feel like this movie did a good enough job of making me feel like there were real stakes, of making me care about what happened to anyone. In this movie, they do introduce a new character, Jayla, who I thought was really great. She was probably my favorite character in the entire movie, and I have to say that she had some really excellent heroic moments, and I was probably most on board with her particular storyline. But the overarching storyline character-wise centers on Kirk and just sort of his issues with being a captain and the malaise of being on a very long journey through space that seems like it's never going to end, and whether he wants to carry on being Captain Kirk. As far as the actual plot points of the movie, it felt way too disjointed. It felt like several episodes of the show rather than one cohesive movie plot in a lot of ways. And as far as what the actual plot is, it's the same thing we've seen 1,000 times. It's the whole bad guy going on a scavenger hunt to pick up pieces of a WMD of some sort so that he can destroy the entire universe type thing. You know, we just saw this in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both of them, and we've seen this a million times before. So in that sense, I felt like it was really lacking in terms of what the bad guy's endgame was, because it's the same old thing yet again. So unfortunately, I feel like this movie just didn't really up the ante. I don't really feel like it did anything to renew or refresh this franchise. A lot of people weren't super pleased with the second installment with Star Trek Into Darkness, and I don't feel like this one is giving it the life support that it needs. Of course, that hasn't stopped the studio from already greenlighting a fourth Star Trek movie. It's already been announced. That movie's a long ways off, so let's focus on the present and let me know in the comments if you guys are gonna go check out Star Trek Beyond this weekend. It opens today. Again, I don't really think it's particularly a overwhelmingly good movie. I don't even feel like it was underwhelming. It's somewhere between just whelming and slightly underwhelming, just kind of. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to CineFix and make sure you don't miss our next video. I don't know what it'll be. Put Jayla next to sad Batman.